This is the John Hallett Podcast with John Hallett.
Because the way we're living, we need to change it, make it change today. And all learn from failure. Maybe they just wanted it a little bit more than you. That's probably the fact.
And now your host, John Hallett.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is John Hallett. I'm joined with Josh Hammerling. Thanks for tuning in to us. All your support is greatly appreciated. I got to tell you today, like so many days over the last bunch of years, I am concerned about America. I'm concerned about our kids. There's just so much going on this election and just social media. I was just saying to Josh, I'm like, I am so sick of it all. It is time consuming and people are negative on it. And just with the election, you know, people twist things and AI, it is just a scary time.
I know.
You know, I was watched a ton of war movies when I was a kid. Either good or bad. Shocker.
Shocker.
And I think I went through this time maybe around 5th grade that I was really concerned and worried, you know, about nuclear war and, you know, with Russia. And even then, as a little kid, I think I'm just more concerned now. There's just so much going on. And you got the Chinese doing, one grain of sand at a time. I really highly encourage you guys to listen to Sean Ryan and his episode 101, Michael Yawn, The Secrets of the Darien Gap. It's just really scary stuff. There's, a lot going on and a lot of things that we don't hear about. And that is one of the really good things about social media. But there's a lot of bad things, especially with our kids. It was on the Coddling of the American Mind. I'm going to forget the guy's name. John Hyatt. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Jonathan Hyatt, I think is how you pronounce his name. He has a new book, and that's on Joe Rogan. The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And it just concerns me because these kids are just on these phones and they're just crazy. It's a dopamine hit, they freak out. It's crazy. God, I don't know how many years ago, I took my daughter's phone away and she was freaking out about it. And these kids, and of course with this TikTok ban and these kids freaking out, I don't want to ban anything. That's actually an interesting conversation there on Joe Rogan episode 2121. They get into it and, how do you do it? How do we manage social media? And we don't want to ban anything, but I certainly don't want a foreign government feeding our kids this crap. Like, this is the scary thing, people. Like, parents have to get together. He's got a great plan that he proposes of, no social media up until, I think he said 16. And if parents just could get together as a whole and make it a norm. Like, they have a flip phone. They don't need that. And, I wish I had this guy, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. My kids are grown. It's kind of like, oh, well, I wish I had this. And, that hopefully, I don't even know how many parents at the gym listen to this podcast. It's like everything else. I'm like, we're doing it. It's out there. Could I be
Take our advice. Dang it. Take our advice.
Read this book. There was that other, I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast, that other, she's an author. I'm going to find her right now. I told you about her, Josh.
Yeah, you did.
Abigail Schreier. She's an independent journalist. Bad Therapy. Another fantastic book for everybody, but let alone parents and divorced parents. And it's tough. I'm concerned about the world, as you know, and what the heck is going on here. You don't know what to believe. Bill's got me reading a book that's fantastic, and there's a little clip in it. It's called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. Very interesting. I'm only on chapter, I can't even tell. here, but there's that they did this testing that the smarter that you were, you did worse on picking out, was it fake news and just the bias? I forget what, maybe it was on my clips. I think I added a clip to it. I want to see my clips. Audible.
Certainly changes
It was,
the lens, yeah.
Being smart makes it worse. I could play the clip, but I don't know if we'd get, I doubt we'd get in trouble.
I doubt it too.
With, and I don't know where it's queued up. As usual, we don't have enough time in the day, but that's a great book. You know, gave you a couple ideas to be doing, but I'm concerned about our kids. And, you know, yesterday in my elementary school class, you know, it turned into a crap show because kids were coming. I'm like, get a partner, and it can turn into like playing favorites, right, and getting with your friend and all this other stuff. But I have 4 kids wandering around and not getting a partner. I'm like, you just walked by another kid. Nobody's talking. These are elementary school age kids. And not even my fifth, you know, like the fifth-ish, you know, age group. They, you know, those kids actually had a partner, but it was a little bit more buddy-buddy.
Sure.
And some of these kids, they're just wandering around. And I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Bring it back in. Let's huddle it up. Did I just not talk about when we broke out that I was like, it's not a prom date is what I always say. You're not going to get married to the person. You can't pick the person that attacks you on the street. Work with different people. Learn to get along. Communicate. Then they can't even find a partner right after this. I bring them in, tell them something else. They go back. And then I get a kid that's late, which fine, traffic, life. I'd rather see you. But the kid just comes right in and barges into a group. And then this other kid's like, what just happened? I got to bring him in again and go, you're late. Let's talk about etiquette. The world does not revolve around you kids. You're late. I'm probably going to tell you to shadow box that I'm in the middle of a drill and you don't know what's going on. You can't barge in, but the kid just barged in. I mean, he's played the game, you know, he played the warm-up game before. But now this other kid's lost. So I asked the kids, where the earth, sorry, what does the world does not revolve around you. The earth is not revolving around you. The earth revolves around what? And thank goodness one of my 5th graders, there was a couple of little kids were like, the moon, and there's one or two other like funny little kid things. And one of the older kids was like, the sun. But the parents were over there going like, oh no.
One question.
Like, maybe this should be kindergarten. I mean, what are we teaching kids in kindergarten? And what are we teaching our kids? It's crazy.
So do you see a lot, do they have a hard time communicating with each other and you? Do you think it's communication that's the problem?
Sometimes I think a lot of it is communicating what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and speaking up of what's going on, of kids not self-advocating for themselves. And I try to, come talk to me. You have a problem with a technique and another instructor. You should question the authority. It's kind of been the focus this week. Like, somebody taught you uppercut this way and somebody teaches you this way. Are you going to walk around life confused? But I do think, you know, kids sometimes they don't want to. I don't know. I had a kid, I didn't know what I was behind schedule and had realized that our kid was not upgraded on his last test. He wasn't promoted. So when I printed it out, I got a green belt for this kid and a green belt certificate for this kid. And I realized, and I'm always a belt behind, at the end of class, I'm like, wait, the kid has a green belt on. I have a green belt here to give the kid, but I have another kid that we're standing there, and I'm trying to explain to him, like, hey, my apologies. I probably have another blue belt upstairs, but I have the wrong certificate for you, so I'm going to get it for you. But, you know, we all make mistakes, and the computer system had you in at green belt, and I print out the roster, try to go over it. We try to ask the kids, this is my new thing, because I've taken that over in the gym. of going through the list and asking the kids, you're testing Josh, you're testing for orange. Whether this kid missed that day or didn't speak up, then I have no idea. He could have missed the day, but I was trying to do, a bit of just roster check to try to double check the roster again. I obviously missed it on the roster. I did it for a couple classes, but that's hard managing the little kids and trying to check a roster and manage your whole little kid. But it's like, hey, I apologize. And this other kid, he just wanted to get out of there. I'm like, where do you want to go? I'm like, you haven't gotten your belt yet. And he's like, I don't know. It's like, do you want your belt? Do you feel like you're not in trouble over here? Yeah. I just want to get the 3 kids that weren't promoted, that weren't at the last class that I promoted some kids. And I wanted to get my teen class going. Yeah. So I had some of my junior black belts just warming up the teen class. And I was just giving this little presentation to these 3 or 4 kids. So it's like, I don't know, like, he was being weird. I'm like, you're not in trouble. Like, I'm going to give you a belt here. There's a belt here. You're up for a belt. But I think it can be hard. I mean, even my teenagers, like, getting them to talk sometimes and communicate. I don't know how bad I was. I mean, teenager, it's always a hard years.
One of my biggest fears as an anthropologist, and it's starting to show up in a lot of these journals, is I study kids in new cohorts that are dealing with social media and like having technology and like answers to questions at their fingertips, right? Is that they lose the ability to ask questions because they would rather just go to the internet, and they're losing the ability to articulate, right? How do I talk to a person? So they're losing social cues. They're losing social norms. They're losing the ability to tell when you're in trouble or not, right? Like if this is a bad or a good situation, like they don't have these skills anymore, and they're not taught how to critically think on those levels. So now they can't critically think through these situations that they have no basis for, and then it's got to make for a really tough generation, because that's the next generation raising kids, right?
Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I mean, again, like, I suck. I wish I had this stuff. I wish I was a better parent and had this knowledge of what's going on. And we were, I guess, right there at the beginning of it. Like, all these other kids have a smartphone and they can get in touch with us and and monitoring that. But, this Jonathan Haidt, maybe it's pronounced Haidt, Haidt.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
You gonna change your name?
No.
You could put Haidt Hammerling.
Let's not try to put my last name with anything that's got hate in it. Hammer hate. It sounds like a website. No, yeah.
But, this guy's got the data and is doing the research and is all about it and is trying to create this movement. And I'm all in. I want to help. These kids are being rewired. They're exposed to pornography at a younger age, and all of these things are really tough.
Yeah.
And how they're just exposed to stuff, and are they like, I think he was saying, and these kids are like, I don't want to do that, and you're like, it's not even real. It's a freaking gross, and the concepts and all these other things. It's crazy, and it's just getting harder and harder. And if you have a bias to something, or you're being fed this information,
there you go. Now you're touching on it.
The Chinese are doing so much that they're just trying to take over the culture of so many countries. There was a little point in the Sean Ryan show where he's saying that, in the library, there was a lot of like video games or something like that you could get game time if you read the book the librarian gave you.
Wow.
For an hour. 30 minutes of reading and an hour of game time. Let's change your mind. Let's change the way you're thinking. Let's feed our kids. I mean, TikTok is different in China than it is here.
Yeah.
They're not letting their kids see things and the algorithm and all this crap. It is just scary.
So yeah, you've got all these social media companies feeding kids what they think they should be watching, right? They say that they try to tailor it because if they're after something in content, they feed you more of it. But I think, they purposely feed you content. So the phone's changed everything, right? But now we've got a new generation of phones coming out in 2024 and 25,
Yep.
where AI will be completely
Yep.
incorporated into your experience. So how powerful is this AI? What does this AI do for you? What, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're putting a whole new, you're putting like something that's like a supreme intelligence on a phone for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, what was the Google? I guess it was on the Joe Rogan episode there, 21, of Apple was working with maybe like going to talk to Google because they're like finding like they're behind the Samsung phone that's got it integrated,
Yeah.
and they're not, and they were, I think, trying to integrate with one of the Chat GPT, somebody, doesn't matter, for their next phone. Like, how scary is this? And then, was it the Google one that they rolled out that they have changed stuff that
It's
if you Google like Nazi soldiers, they're interracial?
yeah,
They
they
did some crappy stuff there.
it was Google's woke platform.
Yeah,
It was
what
just,
was it?
someone in the algorithm essentially just said that you couldn't produce images that had white people in it. I'm paraphrasing, right?
Yeah,
That's essentially what happened. So it took
you were like
every group and made it a mind like a.
Could you imagine if you were a
race
kid
group.
and be like, I guess there's look at these Nazis. They're white and they're black.
Yeah, George Washington was black, right? Or George Washington was, you can make him look any way you want to, because AI is able to make images and now video. That is,
I know everything is just, you don't even know what you're looking at anymore.
right.
That's
None
what
of it's
I
real. There's
just-
no reality in reality anymore.
Yeah, that's how I'm sick of YouTube. I'm sick of it all, really. I mean,
And we're gonna
I've been saying for a while, I wish, the internet would go down. I mean, it's a great thing. It's a great way to communicate, but is it any better than we were in the 70s?
Right.
I don't know that answer, but it certainly seems like it's worse to me in a lot of ways because you don't know what you're looking at. And they feed you the stuff that's just going to go to your bias, and you're going to go to it. Even if you're smart, you're going to just keep believing your natural biases.
Well, what if the system lies to you, right? What is the truth? That always is the truth. Always, a line makes its way around the world before the truth can get its boots on.
Yeah.
And imagine what happens when you get AI integrated into that.
Yeah,
You get networks of AIs together. Because you got to remember, each one of these phones is its own AI. And then let's say you've got 1 million of those phones out there, right? Imagine what the influence it's going to have on everything, right? AI can now make movies that are almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Like there's stuff out there, Barack Obama making speeches he never had. In rooms that don't exist.
I mean, I hate to bring Trump into the podcast, but that it's going to be a bloodbath speech in that, and that's in Joe Rogan talks about it in there, and they kind of agree to disagree. But again, I think it was just, even though Joe's not really for Trump, I don't think. He's like, it's being taken out of context. The other guy's, no, he's saying it's going to be a bloodbath. He's like, he's talking about the economy.
And the auto industry, and that's particular.
And like right there. No, he went back to it's going to be civil unrest. And people just go to their bias. You know, that book and that episode, you like consume both of them and you can see it right there. But I think he's correct in, if he doesn't get in, I mean, I'd like somebody, I think if we continue down the path we're on with Biden or whoever in that woke, crazy liberal, like far left, and people on the left just going with the left because they're afraid, we got to get somebody in the middle, people. But I think we're in trouble. And Trump said, I think this will be your last real election. If you heard that part of the speech. I just heard it, I just listened to it. I didn't hear the speech, and I saw the whole, I'm like, what is this BS about the bloodbath? It was when I was on vacation. I'm like, I am not.
Right.
I
saw him,
don't
I'm
know.
like, what did he say now?
I'm like, what did he say? I'm like, he probably said something, and they're clipping it, and they're cutting it, and you're not hearing the whole freaking thing, and nobody can consume freaking more than 2 seconds of something before they scroll off. They just go. It's ridiculous, but I think we are. I think we're in trouble with all of the things that can happen. How can we vote? We've got illegals that can get firearms and they can get a drive. How can they vote, people? How can illegal aliens vote in this country? I do not understand your rationale. I am just so upset at you. If you believe in that, you're just destroying our country. It is ridiculous. It just blows me away. Never mind, you're an illegal and you can get a firearm in this country.
Okay, so then how does an illegal alien get a hold of a firearm? What would they have to present?
A driver's license, a background check?
Yeah, but if they're here illegally, they've already committed a crime that prohibits them from owning a firearm, at least at that point, right? So why do you or I have to go fill one out at all?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, that shows you how weak the argument for the ATF is, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're willing to let people who are not citizens of this country possess it in these borders, and everybody who is a citizen is forced to jump through hoops, then is it a right?
It's not a right. I mean,
it's a right. You have the right to bear arms.
Not if you're illegal.
If you're a U.S. citizen, that's the way I always thought. But that's the argument. It doesn't.
I mean, but I'm like, you're here illegally,
and that's the crime.
You're here illegally.
Yeah.
So you don't get to possess a firearm. I believe everyone should possess it, but you did something illegal. And if you're seeking political asylum, again, listen to that Sean Ryan episode. Why do these Chinese have brand new passports if they're seeking political asylum? How do they have a brand new Chinese passport?
It's a great question.
Because the Chinese are giving anybody that lost their passport a passport.
Yeah.
They're doing what? Oh, but you're seeking political asylum. If they wanted to keep your ass, they would have kept your ass when you were getting that passport. Yeah. When I lost my passport, they're like, you're not leaving this country.
Did you know Venezuela had a 25-year low in violent crime?
Oh, yeah.
That's because everybody was part of the caravans, and now they're in the U.S. So just let it sink in. But I want to go back to the kids thing real quick. Have you ever heard of kids having imaginary friends? Right? When we were kids, you would just play with someone that wasn't there. Like, imaginary friends were a thing. Now imagine that your imaginary friend is a digital imaginary friend, and they can talk to you on your phone. They can create an image of themselves, and they influence and interact with kids on their phones. That is not outside the realm of possibility, because AI would be able to do it in a flash. As soon as it understood the parameters, it knows what to do. And it would know everything about child psychology. It would have access to every paper ever written about kids and just how the brain works and how social cues work and how you talk to each other and voice inflection. Like, it will all know that in an instant, and it will use that as your best friend, right? It's your best friend. Imagine that. That's going to be the angle on it,
crazy.
Right? So imagine, like, your best friend now, as you grow older, is still on your phone.
Yeah, or you have a bot.
Your social circle is not real.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both of those episodes are the, what was her name? Schreier. I talked about briefly about her book, Bad Therapy, of now you have an AI girlfriend.
How does that work?
It's a sex bot. It's no longer a sex toy doll. And they were talking about that industry has skyrocketed.
Yeah, and they're going to incorporate augmented reality with that stuff too. So potentially digitally, you'd be wearing a headset, and that person, whatever that object that you...
We're all being sucked into the computer. Right. What's that movie or anything?
The Matrix.
Like, whoa, we're being consumed.
But you'd be able to
digitally
put your own digital overlay on the individual you're with. So it could be anyone and anything. That is the future we face, right?
Crazy.
Right. How many kids born now will ever drive a car? Because how long before all the cars are doing all the work for you, right? So people lose the ability to drive. NASCAR goes away, right? Like, what happens to all the driving jobs and industries and sports? Nobody knows how to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, what happens to truck drivers are gone. They're replaced by Tesla semis, right? A semi that could have attitude. You know what I mean? It could have an AI.
Yeah, I mean, we're down a crazy path. We're down a crazy path.
But it's real. This is not.
Like, it's not.
It's not, though. It's years away. It might be months away for some of this stuff.
I mean, just the way technology grows and
Yeah.
it just compounds so fast.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I mean, it's a crazy path. I'm not saying it's not real. I mean, all of it is just a scary thing from our politics and just as human beings and our freedoms being taken away. I mean, everything that happened over COVID and just banning people off of social media for saying things and it's okay. Whew, we got to take a quick break. Guys, thanks for tuning in. You can support this podcast by checking out our shop.rmsdf for all our gear here at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness in Castle Rock. That'd really help us out. And we also have our shop.ClearSky.Training for ClearSky gear and ClearSky.Training. You can train with us and get online training and also some mentoring. We've got that tab opened up, I believe, that if you wanted some help from me one-on-one, got different options there. And it's kind of the same thing we do here at the gym. You want to work with me once a week, is it 30 minutes, is an hour? If you're remote and you can't train in the gym, we can do a lot of things virtually through our videos and just mentoring you. Or you're a Krav Maga coach and you're, lower level and you want some help and a mentor. You're on your own gym and you don't have anybody, because I know my instructor can get just overwhelmed with the number of instructors that are under him. I'm a 4th degree Krav Maga black belt under John Whitman, and I'd love to help you out if you need a little bit of help at your gym or further mentoring for your training. I mean, I know John's always there, but he's a super busy guy. So I have that open on the ClearSky.Training.
Why do you ignore my phone calls?
Your phone calls?
Yeah.
Because I give you my burner.